So last week we discussed the whole idea of desiring to be with God. That's the activity of the heart and the soul. Today we will discuss yearning to be with God. Now, as a prelude, whether we have thought through this or not, but when we look deep into ourselves, we will realize that we are feeling creatures. We are led by our emotions and inner intuitions and the way we feel. Even our thoughts are governed by the way we feel and interact inside ourselves. And on the other hand, we find a huge disconnect between what we understand to be the truth through our minds and the way we are through the way we feel. So we can be the most refined theologians or philosophers in which we know that God wants nothing but good for us. Yet we may despair. We may know that whatever God has destined for us is best for us, but yet we may become discontent at the decree of God. We may know that what is happening to us may be good for us, but within we are struggling and we are saying to God, but you can turn the events and they can still be good for me. So there is a disconnect and a distance between the way we think and the way we are at the core of our reality. This is the reality that needs to come into motion and advance towards God. And without activation of the inner being, there is no journeying. Until and unless we feel God, we desire Him, and we yearn Him, we have not stepped on the journey or on the road, or we haven't taken a first step yet. Now, we might say, well, this is very difficult. How do I ignite the heart into wanting God, into yearning God? This is what the masters say, that when we habitually do something, we begin to like that thing. So, for example, let us give some very simple examples. When we find people from, let us say, the Middle East, they come and become a part of our community and congregation, they find that our sense of taste is not something that they can easily handle. It's too spicy. But after living with us for a number of years, they become accustomed to that taste. And now they can't live without it. They begin to like it very much. The body gets used to it. The mind begins to like it and yearn it. Similarly, there may be a particular workout that we may not like because it's strenuous. But when we do it persistently, the body gets used to it, the mind becomes habituated towards it, and if we don't have it, we start missing it. So when we introduce the body to a particular routine, the rest of the being falls in line. The liking factor comes in, and then the wanting factor of the heart also begins to open up. You might see in many situations where there are a boy and a girl in which the boy doesn't like the girl or the girl doesn't like the boy, but they grow on each other. And after a little while, because they've accompanied them for so long, they begin to miss each other. So initially, it wasn't like the heart wasn't initiated, but because of constant acquaintance, association, interaction, the heart opens up. This is the same with God. When we constantly meditate, worship Allah, chant the names of Allah, what happens is that the doors of the heart, they begin to slowly open, and then the feel factor begins to emerge. So yearning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a step more intense than desire for God. And these are preludes towards love, as we will explain next week. Now, what does yearning do? Let us think back into our own former states or present state. Sometimes we like someone or something, we desire them, and therefore we are out to get their attention. As we begin to get to know them, the heart intensely begins to yearn that person and their company. Now, we would look at the telephone constantly to see if we've received any text messages or a missed call. And you can all smile at this because it's something common to everybody. Then we begin to slowly think that actually every one of my thoughts is accompanied with the object of my love. There is this yearning within. We begin to miss them. We begin to imagine them. Everything we do is connected with them. Even when we eat, we are sharing that food with them in our minds. Our feel factor is constantly involved with them. Now, at that level of yearning somebody and wanting their reciprocation of this yearning that we have, it might not be love at this point, but nonetheless, it is a sort of an infatuation. What we find is that those things that used to preoccupy us in our minds become dampened. They lose their significance, they lose their importance. And this new thing, this new state that prevails upon our hearts becomes predominant. What that does is it absolves us of distractions. Now, here's the distinction between meditation and devotion to God. Meditation is very good. Yoga, mindfulness, I'm going to discuss it tomorrow in Jummah khutbah as well. That meditation is there to clear our minds. But involvement with God is directed growth and realization of godliness. Both go hand in hand. One is there to clear us, clean us, remove that which is alien to our condition from us. I'm not a gender, I'm not a religion, I'm not a status. Meditation does all of that. But with this directed yearning and love for God and wayfaring, what happens is that not only does everything else become meaningless, we ourselves begin to immerse ourselves in the object of our desire. And it's so intense that we begin to lose ourselves and we find the emergence of the one that we desire. So, this is the only way to achieve that, that the heart get involved in a passionate manner with the object of our love to the extent that every part of us is involved with the beloved. We can't think beyond the beloved, and although infatuation might not be the most appropriate word for it, intense desire is something that they will term, but I think if we can understand it better with a state of infatuation that leads into deep love, then that's what it is. Now, what that does is it finally frees the heart. Now, whereas the yearning for other than God enslaves the heart to the extent to the object of our desire, yearning of God makes the heart as expansed as God Himself. So, whereas when we desire worldly people, we become confined to whatever they are, yearning for God because He is the absolute, the most beautiful, light untarnished, unrestricted. It broadens us instead of constricting us. So, this deep, burning desire and yearning for God is a necessary condition of spiritual wayfaring because it gradually finishes our limited identity of and allows us to expand and to embrace the vastness of God Himself. Now think about it once again with an example. You will often find that when we go for ziyarah of Hussein Salamullah alayhi, Imam Hussein is so potent in this respect. Or on the night of Ashura, when people are moved by the narration of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and they weep and they lose themselves, at that point, if you were to ask even a person who finds it difficult to part with his wealth, if you were to ask that person to part with wealth in the name of Hussein, they will find it very easy to give away their wealth. What happens here? That their yearning for Hussein has lessened their distraction, and their inner being is becoming involved with Hussein and trying to emulate Hussein and become like Hussein. Not through the mind that I have to become like him, but inadvertently the soul is melting away in that person. Similarly, if we want to incentivize people into defending the truth, we narrate to them the story of Imam Hussein. They begin to lose their fear. Now they have the promise of paradise in their minds. They have God's words that are being repeated to them. They know very well that the life is going to end, and the hereafter, in comparison to this life, is an unending process. Yet they will not be moved into courageously defending the oppressed. But when they are involved with Hussein and they begin to lose themselves, at that point, tell them to stake their lives, and they might do so. Tell them to speak up for the truth, and they might do so. What their religions and theologies and philosophical thoughts could not do for them, that emotional involvement with Imam Hussein was able to do for them. So a necessary part of spiritual wayfaring is this intense involvement by way of yearning God, and that is what carries us on the path, because the path is all about giving ourselves over to the object of our love and allowing Him to predominate and prevail in a way that He will not come and occupy our chest, but that our chests will be torn apart and He will emerge from there. So, yearning is a necessary requirement. I'm going to repeat this once more. We cannot force ourselves to love, but we can set the preludes for it. If we are praying and fasting and doing dhikr, then that dhikr and praying and fasting ought to be done in a way that it is productive in producing that effect of yearning God. And there is a way, obviously, to do that. I'll stop there. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Faiza, shall I stop the recording?
Yeah, stop recording, please.
You stopped it?
No, no, you have to stop it. I think you're, yeah, it's done. Oh, yeah, you have to stop it.